Let's talk about something we all do every single day. Talk to strangers. We think we're pretty good at it, right? But what if the tools we use to understand people we don't know are fundamentally broken? Today, we're diving into Malcolm Gladwell's incredible book, Talking to Strangers, which explores just that. And our story, tragically, starts with a woman named Sandra Bland. This is Sandra Bland. She was just 28 years old. And in the months before her death, she was posting these hopeful videos online, sharing messages of faith and strength. She had just landed a great new job at her old university. She was genuinely excited about this brand new chapter in her life. So, on July 10th, 2015, Sandra Bland gets pulled over for not using her turn signal. A minor traffic stop, but that interaction just explodes. She's arrested, and 3 days later, she's found dead in her jail cell. And the question that just hangs in the air is, how? How does something so small spiral so completely and terribly out of control?
To even begin to understand what happened on that roadside, we first need to zoom out and look at the flawed strategies we all use when we're trying to figure out a stranger. And Gladwell argues that we all start with this one very powerful and sometimes very dangerous assumption.
Think about it for a second. Our society literally couldn't work if we went around doubting every single person we met. You have to assume the barista isn't poisoning your coffee, right? This default to truth is basically our brain's operating system. It's necessary for us to function, but it leaves us with a massive blind spot.
So, to see this in action, let me introduce you to Ana Montes. Her colleagues called her the Queen of Cuba. She was an absolute superstar at the Defense Intelligence Agency. She was brilliant, she was respected, she was the person everyone went to for insight, a total pro.
And for 17 years, she was also spying for Cuba, leaking secrets and betraying her country right from the inside. She did this right under the noses of an entire agency whose job is to spot deception. So why didn't anyone catch on? Because they defaulted to truth. She was one of them. She was amazing at her job. It was just so much easier to believe the story she was presenting than to even consider the insane alternative.
And get this quote is from Scott Carmichael, the investigator who finally interrogated her. And it's so revealing. His job in that moment is to catch her in a lie, but even he finds himself kind of charmed by her. He's looking for a master spy, but he's seeing an impressive, attractive professional. His default setting, just like ours, was to believe the person right in front of him, even when his entire job was to do the exact opposite.
Okay, so that brings us to the second broken tool we all use with strangers. It's this idea of transparency. The belief that what you see on the outside, someone's smile, their body language, is a perfect reflection of what they're feeling on the inside.
Gladwell has a great name for this, the Friends fallacy. After the TV show, where every single emotion is written all over the actors' faces. We kind of think real life is like that, but it's not. The reality is that many people are mismatched. Their outward behavior just doesn't line up with their internal feelings, and we are just terrible at reading those people. Amanda Knox is a perfect and really tragic example of this. When her roommate was murdered in Italy, her behavior was odd. She was seen kissing her boyfriend, doing cartwheels at the police station. Now, this didn't fit the script of how a grieving person is supposed to act. So the police, the media, the public, they saw a cold, guilty killer, not a terrified, confused young person reacting to trauma in a bizarre way. She was mismatched, and it almost destroyed her life. And this quote from her just nails it. It's so powerful. We tend to trust what we think we see in a stranger's face more than we trust cold, hard facts. She was basically convicted because the world misread her. As she says, her eyes, they're not evidence.
All right, so let's take these two big ideas, our default to truth and this myth of transparency, and let's bring them back to that roadside in Texas, back to Officer Brian Encinia and Sandra Bland.
The whole thing starts over a simple lane change. It's courteous at first, but the mood shifts fast. The real turning point is when Encinia tells Bland to put out a cigarette in her own car. She questions his authority to do that, and in just a few seconds, what was a routine stop blows up into a full-blown confrontation, and then a violent arrest.
So what was going on in Officer Encinia's head? Well, he was part of a policing strategy that basically tells you to flip that natural human instinct upside down. He was trained not to default to truth. His job was to treat every single stop like a hunt for the needle in the haystack, that one person who might be a real danger. So he wasn't looking for honesty, he was looking for deception.
And from that point of view, what did he see in Sandra Bland? He saw a mismatched person. Now, Sandra had a history of difficult encounters with law enforcement. She was stressed out, she was in a fragile emotional state, her frustration, her irritation. To an officer who's trained to be suspicious, it didn't look like a citizen being annoyed. It looked like a threat.
So you see, the point here is that this wasn't just about one bad officer or one difficult driver having a bad day. It was a perfect storm. It was a collision of these broken strategies for understanding each other. You had a police officer trained to abandon the default to truth, meeting a mismatched citizen whose demeanor was tragically and completely misinterpreted.
And here's the really sobering part. This isn't some rare one-off event. Police in the United States conduct about 20 million traffic stops every single year. Think about that. That's 20 million chances for these exact same misunderstandings to play out, over and over and over again. Every one of them is a high-stakes gamble on our very flawed ability to understand a stranger.
So Gladwell's book really forces us to look in the mirror. We all like to think we're good judges of character, that we can size people up. But the evidence just isn't there. We default to truth, which makes us vulnerable. We believe people are transparent, which makes us arrogant. So the next time you meet a stranger, maybe the most important tool you can bring is a little humility and to accept the really unsettling possibility that you don't really know them at all.